Let's continue. When everyone had eaten, the blind poet, Demodocus, took up his lyre and began to sing a story of the Trojan War. Odysseus was cut to the heart, remembering his friends who had died in that war. He was crying again. King Alcinaeus saw his sad face, but he didn't ask any questions. Instead, as soon as the story was finished, he stood up and stepped back from the table. "You have shared our feast," he said to Odysseus, "and heard our great poets sing. Now come and see how good our sportsmen are." Then they flocked out of the palace, and all of the young men started jumping and running. They set up wrestling matches and competed at throwing the discus. Everyone took part, including Prince Laodamas, Nausicaa's brother. "And how about you, sir?" he said to Odysseus. "Would you like to share our sports?" Odysseus shook his head. "Not after all I've been through. I need my strength for traveling home." One of the other young men looked up at him and said rudely, "You don't look like much of an athlete," he said. Odysseus was annoyed. "I used to be one of the best," he said sharply. "Let me show you what I can do, even now." He jumped up to his feet and seized the biggest, heaviest discus. Swinging his arm back, he flung it with all his strength, making the Phoenicians duck as it went flying over their heads. It was a huge throw, beating out all the other attempts. Odysseus watched it land and then turned to face his hosts. "Is that enough?" he said. "Would you like me to throw again? Or does one of you want to challenge me to a boxing match? I can wrestle and run, too, and I am a better archer than anyone else on earth. How else would you like to test me?" "Noble guest," said King Alcinaeus, "you've proved yourself already. I don't know who you are, but you're just the kind of man I'd like my daughter to marry." Odysseus shook his head, smiling. "She is a beautiful, wise girl, but I have a wife already, and a son, too. I must go home to them." "We'll send you on your way very soon," said Alcinaeus, "but first there are gifts we want to give you." He led Odysseus back into the palace and presented him with a bronze and silver sword. The Phoenician lords added so many other treasures that Alcinaeus had to provide a great wooden coffer to hold all of them. Then they enjoyed a second feast together. Afterwards, Demodocus took up his lyre again. This time he began to sing about the wooden horse that the Greeks had used to capture Troy. "Crafty Odysseus devised the plan, and built a hollow horse made out of wood. The Greeks embarked, pretending to retreat, and left the horse behind upon the shore. Triumphantly the Trojans took it in, not guessing how they were deceived, not knowing Odysseus and his men were crouched inside." Listening to the song, Odysseus saw the shadowy faces of his comrades crouching beside him in the horse's belly. He remembered those same faces lit with the fire of battle as they broke out of the horse and rampaged through the sleeping streets of Troy. Quietly he began to weep. Alcinaeus signaled to the poet to stop singing. "Sir," he said to Odysseus, "we can see that you are noble, but you have not told us anything about yourself. Who are you, and why does this song cause you such grief?" Odysseus drew a long breath. "I am Odysseus, Laertes' son," he said. "I was one of the men who crouched inside that wooden horse. I saw Troy fall and the whole city burn, and ever since then I have been trying to get back home to Ithaca." Alcinaeus stared at him. "But it's almost 10 years since the end of the Trojan War. Why has your journey taken you so long?" Odysseus drew another breath, and he began to tell the whole story of his travels, right from the beginning. Book 9 picks up right at the very beginning of his travels.